Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to go over the Avatar, The Last Airbender, the spoiler we got, and also some speculation as to what I think is going to be in the set, what Earthbending and Firebending and Airbending and Waterbending are all going to do. These are just my speculations, but I love Avatar, The Last Airbender, one of my favorite shows. So I'm pretty excited for this set to come out. And I have heard that at Comic-Con in a couple of days, they're going to spoil maybe some parts of the set. So I wanted to get in my thoughts and speculations before they spoil any more of this set at all and see if I'm right and come back to this video in a few weeks and when they spoil more and see if I got the mechanics correct for the game, for the set, as well as some of the other parts of the set I'll talk about. So let's jump right into the first card that we've got previewed here. This was previewed maybe a few weeks ago, at least by now. Um, this, I believe, is just from the Commander set of Avatar, or is only Commander legal? Let me know if that's wrong in the comments below. I'm not sure if this is standard legal, but it does give us quite a bit of clues into what is potentially going to come in this set. Obviously, we're going to get Aang in this set, but it is 4 colors, so it's red, green, white, and blue. And this is Avatar Aang, so he's mastered all 4 of the elements. And to me, this means that each color is going to be correlated to a particular element. Seems kind of obvious that red would be fire, green would be earthbending, and then I believe the white is going to be airbending, and then blue to be waterbending. That's my guess. You can kind of see that he's a legendary creature, one of each color here, and he has firebending too, and flying. But it also says when you waterbend, earthbend, firebend, or airbend, you draw a card. Then, if you've done all 4 this turn, you transform it, and it's a 4/4 creature here. So, what can we kind of glean about this? Well, first, that there's firebending, which is sort of a static ability on Aang here. So the bending abilities, if they're all kind of follow this, are sort of static abilities which have a number next to them, which is maybe like how advanced of a firebender, waterbender, airbender, etc. That character is, how much potential damage this is going to do, things like that. So it has something to do with a number after that, and so it also says whenever you waterbend, earthbend, firebend, or airbend, you draw a card, and then if you've done all 4. So what that makes me think of is that these are going to be repeatable effects, and sort of static effects are usually repeatable. So you could do these like once every turn, whatever it's going to be. So that's kind of what I'm going off of based on this card, because to be able to do all 4 in one turn, if they weren't some sort of repeatable effect, it would be really, really hard to pull this off. But that's kind of my guess. And then you flip it over to Aang, Master of Elements, which is a flying creature, and it says spells you cast cost all less, 1 of each less to cast, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you may transform it, and if you do, you gain 4 life, draw 4 cards, put a 4+1/+1 counters on him, and he deals 4 damage to each opponent. Now, I've heard some people say that they think the life gain, the card draw, and the counters and damage is going to be what all the bending does. Um, and I think that's a decent guess for what the bending could do. I put some guesses on my Twitter a while ago when this card was first spoiled several weeks ago, but I've updated them to what I think actually is going to be what the bending abilities do in the set. Of course, this is speculation. I don't have any spoilers or anything like that to go off of besides this one. Um, but I am going to draw on sort of the history of Magic and Magic cards and how those could potentially overlap with the bending abilities in Avatar. So let's jump into that and see what firebending. I think firebending is probably the most obvious bending of what it could do, because basically when you look at Magic cards and the history of Magic, everything that is a fire card is a direct damage spell. So annihilating fire, 3 damage, breath of fire, 2 damage, play with fire, 2 damage, exquisite firecraft, every single thing that has fire involved, except for maybe fire breathing, which kind of like gives additional power. But all these like spells that are casting fire, which is essentially what it is in Avatar, The Last Airbender, it is shooting fire out of your hands or different parts of your body, which is what all these cards are basically doing here. So I think this one is pretty obvious that it's going to have something to do with some sort of direct damage. My guess is that it's not going to be direct damage to a creature, because, again, I do think this is going to be repeatable effects, and something on creatures that have the firebending ability. So to be able to repeatedly do damage over and over again to creatures is something WotC is kind of not really doing anymore. There's not really like pingers and things like that that just keep pinging your opponent's creatures because that creates kind of board states that are not very fun to play. So my guess here, if I had to guess, is that Firebending X. We've already seen that there's a number after the Firebending with Aang there. Is that it says when this creature attacks, it deals X damage to each opponent. So it's just an additional kind of ping your opponent for that much damage. So if we looked at the Aang card, when it attacks, it'll do 2 damage to each opponent. Maybe each opponent for sort of commander. It could be nice to do additional damage to each person. So that is my guess for firebending. I think this is maybe the most obvious one that it's going to be some sort of direct damage. But let me know in the comments below what you think firebending might do on a creature. Okay, let's go to waterbending. And waterbending, I think, is a little less obvious. If you look at what water spells do in the history of magic, there's two main things that they do. One is that they kind of return creatures back to their owner's hands. So, like Water Whirl bounces 2 creatures, Flood Water bounces 2 creatures, Whirling Waters as well. So all of these are kind of makes me think there could be like a bounce spell involved with water bending. However, I don't believe mechanically that that would be lead to the greatest gameplay. Again, I do believe that these are going to be repeatable effects on creatures. So being able to just like repeatedly bounce your opponent's creatures over and over again is really not very fun mechanically in the game. Because you can kind of just like lock your opponent out of the game if they just like have one creature they can play over and over again. And you keep attacking and keep bouncing over and over and over again. That'd be a little too strong, in my opinion. So I don't think that waterbending is going to be bouncing creatures. Could be wrong, of course, but that's just my guess. I do think it has a chance of tapping down creatures, such as Waterknot here, which when it comes into play, you tap a creature and then it doesn't untap during their untap step. So something along these lines. This is exactly kind of like what waterbending looks like in Avatar. You're kind of using the water to defeat your enemy, and also like ice is a big part of waterbending. So, there's literally a card called Fire and Ice in Magic, which fire, of course, does direct damage, as you might expect, as we talked about in the last slide. But ice is tapping down permanents. So my guess actually is that waterbending is going to do something to do with tapping permanents. So this is my best guess, is that waterbending X. So I do think that maybe each bending is going to have like a number after it. I think that would be kind of cool to kind of signify how advanced of a waterbender or any sort of bending that person or creature in Magic is. And so I think it's going to be Waterbending X. When a creature attacks, tap target creature and put X stun counters on it. So it could even be like a Waterbending 0 where they just taps a creature and it doesn't put any stun counters on it, but putting additional stun counters would neutralize the creature for a turn or two. Which we have seen in Magic quite a bit, and that wouldn't lead to board states where like it locks your opponent out. They have to like keep paying mana over and over again to replay a creature. But so it's a little less powerful, but also there is some sort of precedent for this ability, and really matches the flavor of what waterbending I think does in Avatar and in Magic. So that's my best guess with waterbending. Again, let me know if you think there's any other ideas for that one. All right, so let's move on to two which are maybe less obvious. It's not actually magic. I should clarify in Avatar: The Last Airbender. They're bending elements, so it's not actually casting magic. So there's a little bit of dissonance there. But in Magic, air spells are kind of do a bunch of different things. Um, I think most obviously it's going to give a creature flying. Like everything that has to do with air, like the wall of air has flying, all the air elementals have flying, things like that. So things in Magic with air have flying, which is understandable. But I don't think it's just going to give a creature flying. That seems a little too weak, in my opinion, and not that great of an ability. And there is some precedent, again, for air spells to bounce creatures or returning non-land permanents. The gust of wind here, returning permanents. So could be something, again, it could have something to do with that. But I don't know. I think mechanically that might be too challenging of a mechanic to have a repeatable effect over and over again that does that. We've got the vitalizing wind here, which pumps your creatures. So there's some precedent for air spells, pumping creatures, and then what I think was probably going to be the most like on brand spell for that represents what airbending is going to do is the windborne charge here, which says two target creatures get +2/+2 and gain flying until end of turn. So this kind of seems like airbending going on here. So that's what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to be both giving flying and a power and toughness boost to the creature to represent how much of an airbender that how powerful of an airbender that creature is. So my speculation, my guess is that airbending X is going to say when the creature attacks, it gains flying and +X/+X until end of turn, where X is how advanced of an airbender that creature is going to be. So I don't know. Let me know if you think this is accurate. This one was maybe the hardest one to kind of think of because airbending can also kind of like push your opponent's creatures out of the way. So maybe it has to like could exile them and return them back to the battlefield, something like that. That's a possibility I thought of as well. But just looking at other magic spells that have to do with air and wind, there wasn't really anything like that either. So I don't know. Certainly could do a lot of different things, but I think flying is the most obvious one and giving a power boost. I think there's some precedent for that. So that's what I'm going to go with my guess. Okay, let's talk about earth bending and what I think that could do. There's a variety of different earth kind of spells in Magic. A lot of them have to do with puffing the power or putting +1/+1 counters on things. Earth and Arms, right? So Earth and Arms has Awaken. So I think there could be something along those lines. Also, the Roaring Earth could be something to do with like landfall. I thought about. My guess when I posted on Twitter was that it would have to do with like searching your library for basic land and putting it in your hand. That still could be a possibility. But the more I thought about it, and what I think mechanically in Avatar: The Last Airbender, and what you see the Earthbenders doing is they're using the Earth to attack their opponent with. So I really think it's going to be something along the lines of these abilities, like the channel part of the Roaring Earth, where it turns a land into a creature, or the Awaken part of Earth and Arms, or maybe just more likely the Vengeant Earth here, which turns your land into a creature. So that is kind of mechanically what earthbending looks like in Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is to use the earth to attack your opponent. So my guess is that it's going to be Earthbending X at the beginning of combat. Target land you control becomes an XX creature with haste until end of turn. They always put haste because you don't want to have a be awkward with the land you just played. Um, it could also untap the land and then let you attack right away with it. So that could be kind of cool. I'm not really sure. They've done it kind of different ways when they've made abilities cards that kind of turn lands into creatures. Sometimes they untap the land, sometimes they don't. So we'll kind of see how it goes. But I really think this is the like flavor wise, this is the best match for what earthbending is in Avatar and what it could be in Magic. So that's going to be my guess. Let me know again what you think about earthbending, if you think there's any other options there. And then some other kind of speculation and thoughts about who the characters are going to be like in the set, what colors they're going to show up as. I think obviously we're going to have Aang, and I think maybe there'll be 4 Aang cards. One will be when he is just an airbender, and then as he has progresses throughout the story, learns waterbending, earthbending, and firebending in that order. So maybe there'll be one card where he's mono white, and then where he's blue white, and then where he's like a Bant color, and then all 4 colors, kind of like what we saw as he masters the elements and gets 4 different cards. Maybe we'll see. That's just an idea. Or maybe there's sort of like a level up card where he kind of gets the different elements, something like that. Sokka, I think, will, because he's water tribe, will be blue, but also white because it's like a human. And then Katara, maybe Katara will be a flip card. Seems like there will be some flip cards in this set as well. One when she's just learning water bending, and then one maybe when she becomes a water bender master, she'll flip over to a more powerful version of Katara. Toph, I think, will definitely be an earthbender, so green. Um, Kind of just speaking on this too, there's some ideas. I had some ideas that maybe the bending abilities will actually be multicolored. That like firebending could be red and black, and earthbending could be like green and black. and Waterbending is like blue and white or something like that. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I do think it would be make it more complex, but if, having one color define each bending style just makes it much more simple. It does make you wonder what the black cards are going to be in the set and how those are going to be represented. I have some ideas. As we go to the next slide, I think that sort of some of the black creatures or the characters might be more of the sort of malevolent characters like Azula. This is sort of all the fire family here, or Fire Lord Ozai, and black could represent sort of their malevolent um, intentions in the show. And Zuko, I think for sure, is going to get two cards to kind of represent his transformation, or maybe a flip card as well. And he could like maybe be a red white and then a red black card. I don't know. He'll definitely be a firebender, of course. So it will be a red card. But I would be surprised if he gets some sort of transformation, because that's such a big story arc for Zuko. And then Iroh may be red white to represent his goodness, as well as his firebending, his sort of pro-social, uh, general pro-social sort of abilities or intentions throughout the show. So there are certainly going to be some side characters I can imagine getting cards. I mean, Appa is not really a side character, definitely a main character, but maybe mono white Appa could be a mount creature that you could saddle up in Magic, so that could be represented pretty well. Would certainly have flying and who knows whatever abilities. Pretty big creature probably. High casting cost. That's my guess for Appa. And then some side characters. I do hope the Cabbage Merchant Kai gets the card from the Earth Kingdom. Probably is going to create some food tokens, something like that. So that should be fun. Side characters like Jet maybe are going to be like white, black, because he's kind of a good guy, but also not so good. Ko could be black. Could also represent some of like the spirit world potentially, because black, there's often spirit cards in black, and there's some kind of like not so good spirits, so those could be kind of mono black cards in the set, potentially. I don't know, we'll see. And then other ideas here, all the lands I think are going to be the different sort of like the Southern Air Temple, different locations, different towns in the show are going to be all the lands, kind of like they did in Final Fantasy. So I think that's kind of pretty obvious, I would say. And then for artifacts, maybe some of the equipments. There's quite a few equipments. There could be like the blue spirit swords, Aang's glider, Sokka's boomerang, things like that. Could certainly be equipments. Vehicles like the war balloon, different tanks and Fire Nation tanks and things like that could certainly be vehicles. I was trying to think about like what enchantments might be. Like there could be auras that like grant bending, different types of bending to creatures. Power fire is sort of a card that does that already with sort of fire bending, you might say. So there's certainly some precedent for that as well. But let me know in the comments below what you think. Yeah, what do you think the lands are going to be? The auras, equipments, enchantments. What do you think is going to end up being those kind of card slots in the set? So, anyways, pretty excited for this set. It looks pretty cool just looking at the one card. And I love Avatar: The Last Airbender, one of my favorite shows. And I think really kind of fits well in with Magic cards and what Magic is doing. Yeah, so let me know. Am I right or wrong? Have I messed this whole thing up? Um, you know, Apparently we're gonna get some amount of spoilers or one card spoiled or something. We'll see what happens at Comic-Con, and then I think in a few weeks from now we're gonna get the mechanics revealed, from what I understand. So I wanted to put out this video just before anything really got revealed, and share what my thoughts and predictions are. So, what do you predict with the set? What do you think is going to be in the set? What do you think? Do you think my firebending, airbending, waterbending, earthbending speculations are accurate, or do you think they could do something completely different? Yeah, let me know if I'm right or wrong in the comments below, and let me know if you're an Avatar: The Last Airbender fan. One of the sets that I'm pretty excited to see what they do with, and would have been really fun to design as a fan of the show myself. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a little different than the videos I usually put out, but I felt really inspired to put this out as this one of my favorite shows, and so I'm super excited about it. And yeah, let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. I got there's one more deck tech coming up, and then the top 20 combo wins coming up video. So we got some more Final Fantasy standard combos to enjoy in the next few weeks, and then Edge of Eternities, of course, when that drops on Arena. So I really appreciate all the support for the channel. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video.